Hey Klaus, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast at Subscribe. So, how are you today?
Yeah. Hi, Pius. Thanks a lot. I'm actually great, except that it's raining since 2 days outside, but that's a great time to even work even more on my ideas. So I'm feeling great as always. Thanks.
And
How are
where are
you?
you based these days? You say it's raining.
Yeah, I'm in Austria. So yeah, it switched from being super hot to being super wet. So
And what do you
that,
prefer, the rain or the heat?
yeah, actually heat. So
Okay.
I'm a heat guy. I'm running. I was in like once many years ago. I was running in Las Vegas at 11 o'clock in the noon time. Yeah. So that's my time. My heat.
Yeah,
My
same for
temperature.
me.
Sorry.
I'm like not a cold, wet guy like Austrians should be, because I'm also Austrian, like yourself.
Yeah. But you were in Australia, so you must love the heat.
It's true. It's kind of the Las Vegas of APAC in that sense,
Yeah.
in terms of heat. Well, thank you so much for making time. So, can you tell us a bit yourself and your background? We already know you prefer heat over cold. So, what else can you tell us?
Yeah. I mean, so don't want to make it too long, but actually it started 25 years ago. So I started my company from university, actually in a library. It was not in a garage like the stories back then, but I came together with some student friends and we just, thought about, oh, why not? Let's develop some e-commerce stores and so on. So the internet was super new and this is where my story started. Then I founded my first company in 2000 um, during university, and it became leading content management provider in Austria. I was working first in professional services. I have a little bit of a technical background, but actually I moved more into marketing and sales. And after 12 years, we got acquired. And I realized that I want to be more in the product side, because our product was actually a service. And so I was, after several steps, and there were also steps with Australia, when the second company was acquired by Atlassian. It is now part of the Confluence product. But I found a company that you can see here, where I was previously co-founder, UserSnap, and that was a SaaS product. And I really love, since then, I love SaaS, and I also became the head of growth because I love the combination of sales and marketing, and doing that together for me is the growth concept. And the growth concept means, in the way how I love it, is the product-led growth, which means that the product grows itself by your all the kind of campaigns that you're doing and the way how you make your product viral. And this is where I was the last like 6 years almost. And yeah, recently some things changed. So that's my career in a nutshell.
So, what is congratulations on your exits, by the way. I mean, for most people, that isn't the case in great companies. So, well done. And you mentioned some things changed. What changed, and what is today Klaus doing, not yesterday Klaus?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, my third company, UserSnap, got acquired last year. And since recently, I left the company as a founder. Sometimes, in an environment where you get acquired, it becomes more kind of way where you are more a manager than a founder. And I love my freedom and my being, moving the company in the direction that I believe in. And that kind of made or I made up my mind, and I said I will leave the company. And I kind of also, saw when the trend of AI came in, that this is something I want to be part of. Yeah, because I strongly believe this will change the world and will to a better place. And I wanted to be part of that early on and learn. And this is where I recently founded an AI incubator, to kind of give me the opportunity to kind of drop some ideas and some hypotheses and build products fast, fail fast, hopefully, or hopefully be successful with them. And this is where I am right now. So I'm currently, I launched several products in the AI space via my AI incubator. And this is
it is called Klaus AI.
yeah. Yeah. I should rename instead of Klaus M to Klaus AI now.
AI. I hope this domain is still free because I will buy it. And copyright it. That's cool. And what do you find particularly fascinating about the AI that made you start this project or this incubator?
Mm-hmm. So actually, many years ago, I already built quite often chatbots. I built them with NLP and all the stuff that were there and even machine learning to a certain extent, and it never felt really the way that the answers were like more than good if else clauses. So that means that you were saying something and then the machine were trying to give you an answer, but it was so bad that you couldn't really use it for a product. And since I'm working with especially ChatGPT was of course my first the first time when I got so impressed that I knew that I wanted to be part of that. I saw that now it has a level where you can really bring value and benefits to companies. Especially, I'm more a B2B guy than a B2C guy, but I also see a lot of cases in B2C. I saw through also Usersnap a lot of companies in the digital area and so on. But I'm B2B, so I see that the current LLMs have the potential to kind of make a lot of processes more efficient and also add a lot of value to existing use cases. Although, as we know, AI is not the solution itself. It's more like an additional feature, and you have to find the right use cases to make it valuable.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, and I agree with it. And you mentioned about being a founder many times in university, like in the Austrian garage, which is the library, because it's free and accessible for everyone, education in this country, which is awesome. So what was it that inspired you to become an entrepreneur earlier or a founder? Like, was it like you woke up and you were like, I want to do this, or is it more something that happened?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Pius. Thanks a lot. So funny enough, so when I left school, I thought I have to make 1 million euro or 1 million USD, because if I put that into the bank and get interest rates, I get enough money on a monthly basis so I can do whatever I want, and not in a way where I want to travel and I want to buy a Ferrari or anything, but I wanted to decide. So I think has a lot to do with freedom. That I wanted to decide for which company can I work, for which project. And if even this project doesn't pay for a longer time, I want to be able to fund that with my existing funds. And that's kind of the driver, I guess. And also sometimes it's luck and fate, because originally I wanted to go into the corporate space and do something with finance or environment. But actually, then I've found some people and we founded something, and suddenly I was totally in it and I loved it, and I don't want to be away from it. So that's how I made it into the entrepreneurship. And also, what is motivating me, I think it's the freedom that it gives me. I'm aware when I get fired, because I have to fire myself. And that is actually what I love and what I don't want to exchange with anything else.
And 1 million US.
Yeah, and 1 million US dollar just to fund the freedom. Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when you were a kid, were you always longing for freedom in even not as a founder, but you remember back then you wanted to be free, or how did you grow up? Is there something that fostered it?
Yeah. So I think when I look back, I can remember that I often when we were coming together as kids, I was often the one who cared for others in the sense that everyone is feeling well, and also kind of organizing when things didn't, when it was boring or we didn't know what to do. I was the one who was organizing the group and entertaining them and seeing that everyone is fine or not left behind. And I think that's also what kind of drives me often to be the guy who is bringing in the culture, who is maintaining and mentoring the team and so on. And that's, I think, is one of the basic attributes that I bring to this entrepreneurship.
I agree with that. It's definitely something that I aspire to when I see you and interact with you. I think you're a very caring person. I would say I'm also caring, but I sometimes bring the business first, even before myself, I guess. But over time, I realized to be a little bit more like you. I try to be, yeah, but yeah, definitely can see that in your day-to-day actions. That's true. Yeah.
I think that both has, is important, and I often, I rarely see myself as a solo founder, solopreneur, and I find my founding team, and they often kind of fill the gaps that I don't have. For example, like the ones, for example, like being strategic and visionary. That's something I'm not so strong in, or I see it's not so much fun for me. I rather love to organize processes and to sell and so on. But, bringing the idea, kind of doing the customer discovery, which is super important, but that's also not my favorite part of that whole journey.
Fair enough, yeah. So what problems do you want to solve with AI now? Do you have anything in particular that you find cool, or are you still exploring in Klaus AI incubator what's next? So what stage is the incubator at, and what problems do you like to solve right now?
Yeah, so actually there are two products that we are onto, but I want to emphasize more one of it. The first one is Otterly AI, which is actually so funny enough, I heard a podcast about AI, and the guy in the podcast was discussing that Google search will change, and it will be interesting because people start to search or to answer or ask questions in ChatGPT instead of Google, because it gives you more clearer answer in context, and that this is will be let's see, an obstacle or a hurdle, and also a challenge for many brands in the future, because they don't know how it changes, how to measure their ranking, their impact, and what they should do in the new LLMs. And when I heard that podcast, something clicked, and I was, okay, that's something that is currently that will come. And I heard from my friends who were deeply into SEO that they are afraid of 2024 because they heard about the changes that Google will make, but no one knows how that changes their ranking, and their whole world is basically built on that, and it's a $70 billion market. And so we started, some friends and I started the idea, and we built first MVP, which is called Otterly AI. And this is actually, so the first step, actually I have to say we already did the second round, because the first round was that it's going into an LLM like OpenAI or Gemini from Google and from OpenAI. And it's checking, if you ask, for example, are the best tools for product analytics or for user feedback, and then they give you, out of the prompts that you ask the LLM, you get a ranking, and you see where your brand is ranked, and that's the first information before you can go into action to change that. And recently that changed, so the LLM started to go into searches and getting some results from the searches to improve their content, because the results were never up to date, the knowledge cutoff of LLMs. And so we started to rebuild it in a new version that is actually behaving like a user and figuring out where your brand ranks when you search for something like what are the best sports shoes in Austria for a triathlon, for a triathlete. And yeah, this is where we are currently with our first MVP, or second in this case. And the other one is a go-to-market for LinkedIn, how to create better posts, comments, and messages with AI. But that's
nice. I recently had a guest. Her name is Katrina for Content Radar. She does something similar, like not exactly like you, but yeah. But the the search thing is a real thing, and tracking that on LLMs or on chatbots is probably something that is needed for brands or companies, because how many active users does OpenAI have? Like 1 billion or so, or something
Yeah,
crazy.
like there are 100 million. Yes.
Insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So looking back, I know I promised you're not going to probe into the path of your career, but I want to, because I want to know, is there anything that you wish you had done differently, either in your previous companies or even in your now it's too early, I guess, to say that, but is there anything you wish you had done differently before launching previous companies and being founder there?
Mhm.
Or a recommendation you would give to future Klaus, basically?
Yeah, as I said, initially is one thing that I don't like that much, and I often stumble into ideas by hearing something or talking to someone like you and getting ideas from our conversations, and then immediately going into a solution mode, and that's a bit too fast. I think I often left out the part where I'm actually validating the ideas by market research, by looking at the markets and also customer discovery. I think that's one of the most important steps that I found it once, or I created once a product for triathletes, because I'm former times I did Ironmans and never talked to a customer, So I spent 120 days developing the tool, but I never talked to a customer. And guess what? I just had 5 or 6 customers at the end, and it never worked out. And that's something that I did more often than I want to confess. And now I'm building a first MVP, because I also think that only analyzing doesn't help you. You have to have something, and then you can start with your early customers or potential customers, a conversation, and which I call customer discovery. And then you identify what is the right target audience. And I always loved to follow your posts on LinkedIn, because I think you did that very well, and you followed on and developed and evolved your product along that side. Can remember the first conversations that we had, and then how you are moving along the path of what the customers tell you. And that's
Okay, that's a big compliment. Thank you so much. I mean, I wouldn't want to say I'm not very good in customer discovery, but I think definitely we had to, because otherwise we had died as a business.
Yeah.
So that was very clear. Now we're not. Now we are doing quite well, thanks to paying customers to support us, and also us doing a slightly better job, but definitely the trust of customers. I personally found that you always had curiosity on understanding customer first product development on the qualitative side. So in our conversations, like even a year, 2 years ago, you're always very curious about growth and marketing and understanding different perspectives. Do you still use this? Did this evolve more over time? That because today you seem to use it constantly, basically, but it wasn't like that in the past, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I still see, when I start something very fresh, like right now, I come back to my old habits sometimes, and I love to build something and have these ideas. And I think that's the right answer to the questions that are never asked. And I have to stop myself actively and say, hey, first of all, talk to the customers, potential customers, have a hypothesis, validate the hypothesis, and then continue and spend a lot of time, but not spend a lot of time and then be annoyed that no one wants to buy your product. And I think that's very often happening. I believe that, as I said, if you should have a balance of both. If you just Some people are researching half their life and they never make it to build a product. Sometimes you need to build a product, you have to fail, and then you evolve. And there are so many examples also in Austria where, for example, one startup started with a search in e-commerce stores, and they ended up as a marketplace for products, and they were sold for 100 million. So you need all of this failure, but if you're only believing in what you think, then you are on the path to failure, I guess. So that's what I have to constantly remind me.
I mean, I always say the customer is right, but I'm more right. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm right, but the customer is more right. That's true.
Yeah.
You cannot. I don't know if you know that, but you know the feeling when you push something like at Usersnap or even for your own business or at Canva, and you push and it's not getting the traction that you thought, and you kind of intuitively know that something isn't 100% right. You know what I mean? Do you know this feeling?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have this now much more often with Subscribed. Very often, Mitch and we would reach our limits, and yeah, it just tough and the reality. But I think in these times, we grow the most as founders if we react to it. I think because we actually learn and we see something isn't working, and then we change it, or something isn't working the way we think, or how well, or it's working but too slow. And it's when we stopped investing in the subscription management product, basically, that's what happened for us.
I think that's maybe if I just jump in for a second, because that reminds me on a second like thing that I did in the past quite often, and I try to stop that now, is like I often reacted to something. So, a customer came with an idea, or someone brought that to my attention that, oh, if you would do that, then it would be great. And I immediately said, great idea. Let's do that. That will solve everything. And then I can remember that I once had a call with a customer like long time ago, and they just mentioned that it would be great to have an analytics tool, and we were in a totally different industry. And I just started developing an analytics tool in the night, which and I showed it to them next day, and they were like, oh, that's amazing. Yes, let's do that. Problem was, it cost us another 6 months to finish it. And then actually, apart from that, Google bought Urchin, and it became Google Analytics, and we were totally doomed with this extra product. But I also realized if I would have stopped in that moment and did more research and analysis, I could have, found out that maybe, something small in the product would be much better help than building another product on top, which was a total waste of time. And I think that also slowed down our company back then. So these fast reactions to something is also something I stop, and rather, sometimes it's better to take it slow if you want to go fast.
Yeah, I mean, good point. Today I had a customer follow up, and we were about to create the invoice and everything great. And I had today, I think, 10 meetings, and in between I was just quickly winging the invoicing, and I put out the entire invoice instead of discussing payment terms. Because I thought, oh, it's going to be fine. And then it kind of created distrust in the customer because we didn't talk about it. It changed. From my perspective, it was, I just want to get it done, But in hindsight, maybe I could have waited till Monday or Tuesday to do it properly. But I was like in such a rush and I wanted to do it. And the more I feel like that, I get in the state of, how should I say, of reactive state. I mean, also, I get more things. I don't do it all the time because I destroy also stuff.
Yes.
It's kind of like I need to slow down to do things properly from time to time, and yeah, that's very true. You need to slow down. The outcome could have been better for us, the customer. I mean, it's fine, but yeah, just a good.
Yeah, absolutely.
What advice would you give to aspiring founders like myself? Because I'm not a real founder. I think I'm still aspiring, but you, on the other hand, are a real founder, or more real than me. So what would you tell me I should and shouldn't do? Obviously, I take it with a grain of salt because I'm different, but I want to know what you have to tell me, what I should and shouldn't do.
I mean, yeah, that's a very broad and big question. I have to say that I learned one thing that is that not sure if I'm really following it right now, but I think it also has to settle. And if you want to be successful, and I learned that from the company that acquired us, and there are a lot of companies, but like there are few that have real product market fit. I never really understood the term. So I actually, everyone was talking about product market fit, and I was like, how do you know that you have a product market fit? And And I think that's super hard, and there is no clear definition of that. But if you have a product market fit, then you build something that people need so much that you are basically the painkiller instead of the vitamin. So they are buying it no matter what, and you are growing and you don't have these struggles. So we often kind of, were investing everything in growth, which we told us ourselves, but actually when you tell yourself these stories and you are not getting the buy-in from the customers, you haven't reached product market fit. Yeah. And then that's, I think, the hard thing to learn, that you have to research and work on it and iterate until you find something that is so essential for the customer that they are willing to pay no matter what, or that the conversations are really short around it, negotiations are really short around it. I think that's one thing that can increase the success rate of your startup a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's not a secret. It's
I like it. It reminds me of today. I worked with a customer, and I spoke about, from the outside perspective, about Canva, how Canva got venture funding, and for a long time they didn't monetize the product. They focused on product market fit, and I think they really did a great job on creating a sticky product, and then later on they enabled monetization much later. But at this point, monetization was kind of the logical step, because people were willing to pay and some features are really heavily used, so it really helped the company to propel. And then there's a lot of other design companies, like I think even like Midjourney and these type of companies, like a lot of these competitors are not breaking even. And I think the reason is that they are very good in activation and payment, paying, but are not in retention, because they don't think enough about collaboration and how this comes together. So I think the second and third Canva companies, like Figma, is also accepted. It had a similar path. Figma was developed for a long time, and Miro then monetized later. So it actually allowed these products or businesses to develop a product market fit first and then monetize. And monetization was more a natural outcome of it. And in these other companies, it's now necessary to move monetization teams off and create features to create stickiness. It's kind of like the opposite. So you have somewhat product market fit, but then you have to figure out product market fit is not strong enough. So you actually have to reshift resources from monetization activation towards retention and actually create more valuable features as well for, I don't know, Midjourney. Maybe they create an editor with collaboration, I don't know. But I see it or observe it. It's probably common knowledge. I'm not that smart, but you see it. And I think about it, and I think this makes, venture funding or investment still valuable to this day, because you can actually have a bigger shot on creating really, really outstanding companies, versus when you're forced to monetize early, potentially the outcome isn't as big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Personal opinion, not validated.
Yeah. But
Atlassian, of course, didn't do that. Yeah. But yeah, product market fit is a real thing. I agree with it. Is there one thing you learned early in your career as a founder that you would like to share? Because you always worked as a founder, based on what you told me. So is there anything that you really learned in your first 6 months? If you want, I can start. So I started a company when I was 21. And one thing I learned is that I always was doing too much. So I was like working as a waiter and trying to create a company, and it was just too much while studying. So I was always put too much on my plate. So I was never able to focus, because I thought that's what I have to do. I have to fill my day to the maximum. And now I learned it's better only being a founder and not having the income temporarily in order to succeed. Like back then was a waiter, but basically not doing too many things. Do you have a similar experience for yourself, or on what you learned early as a career?
Okay. I think I experienced it in my early days, but I didn't learn from it early. That's one of the, maybe also learning. I think that in our first years we were quite stubborn and a little bit So we didn't really believe in mentors and that people can actually, give us good advice. I don't know why, but it was something that was a bit odd now looking back. So I would have told myself to listen to people who already succeeded in that way a little bit um, more intensively, and not just thinking, oh, I can do that. I just, read it on my own. And then, I mean, back then there weren't even so many resources on the internet as it is today. But that's one thing. As I said before, that jumping into conclusions and action way too early is something where I would also stop and rethink and just, how can that help us? I mean, I try to also, as I said, it's a balance, yeah, because if you never dare to jump into something and take the leap of faith and go into something, and that's it. I think many of the startups today that are successful wouldn't be there. Yeah, so it's not only the smart research of the people. Basically, the early founders, they do rarely research. They are just more jumping into conclusions. But what I'm doing right now, stop earlier and try to think about what I heard, what I learned, maybe reevaluating that with other people like you and try to make conclusions out of it. And last but not least, I think one thing that I learned late. I mean, I always had a natural skill for selling on a relationship level, because I love to talk to people, to get to know people. But I did not emphasize enough the other go-to-market strategies. Yeah, and that is something. This is why I was also so focused on becoming a head of growth, learning that and putting that on my, let's say, virtual CV to learn how to grow a company by having a clear positioning, having cleared out the target audience, or what target audience are you addressing, how do you solve, what pain are you addressing, and so on. So being clear on the go-to-market and knowing where your one or two probably traction channels are, and doubling down on that. I think that's one thing that I also haven't used enough back then, and probably all over the place doing all at once, and that doesn't work. Yeah, better to focus on one or two strategies and then double down on that with a clear strategy, audience, use case. I think that's a recipe for success at the end.
Yeah. One thing, I'm not sure if I told you that, but I feel like we are quite similar in that way, in our challenges and who we are as people. In some ways, I feel like when you say the things, it's like you say, oh, you're not, I'm actually exactly like that. I would often do exactly what you think I wouldn't do. I react a lot. And I think it's, as you said, I wish also I wouldn't do it, but at the same time, it's also this drive to move things forward. It's kind of both. But yeah, you're right. I mean, definitely interesting insight, and yeah, it's something valuable for everyone. But yeah, if you don't have it at all, if you never jump in, it's kind of, you probably shouldn't be a founder or startup. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hey, Klaus, we are almost at the end of our podcast. So I wanted to say thank you for coming here and speaking about your AI incubator and Otterly AI. Is there one more thing you would like to share with the audience through our channel?
No, first of all, Pius, thanks a lot. I really love to be on podcasts and talk to smart people like you, because you can
I'm
always
not smart,
think something.
though. Maybe other people are. Yeah.
I know you're smart, and this is why I said I'm following you on LinkedIn, because I love the open, honest kind of way of sharing your way, and that's maybe the thing that I want to give everyone. Even if I'm talking about my exits, because of course these are my goals that I wanted to achieve. So maybe from the perspective that I see, there are two kind of people. The ones are more builders. They don't think about exits, and I'm more a closer. I'm in sales, and I want to kind of have a good closure, which is for me selling the company. But still, even if I talk about that, and that sounds often great, of course, I'm very grateful for that. But I think, on the way there are so many failures that you have to overcome. And I often say, either you win or you learn. And that's, I think, the thing that you have to take with you if you're an entrepreneur and the founder. When things go wrong, try to find out what you can learn from it, stand up, put the crown, straighten the crown, and continue. At the end, it will end in most cases positive when you are motivated to succeed. And, my first company took me actually 12 years until someone recognized it, and we didn't even think about it. That's, and it was a hard, tough journey, but also fun, and I learned a lot, and I'm very grateful for that journey. And I think that's what you have to be aware, and then it can be a really cool thing to be a founder and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to stream this soon and let other people know. So see you soon